Hey everyone, the weather's starting to get warmer. Spring is right around the corner. Let's talk about some great baits to help you catch some big bass this spring. Stay tuned. Chain Flint Outdoors, brought to you by Omnia Fishing. Experience the most personalized tackle shopping on earth. And by MMA Fishing, Fight the Bite. And by Lead Time Batteries, the ultimate power solution for your boating needs. What a big girl! Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to talk about great baits to catch big bass in the springtime. It's the 27th of Feb here in Virginia. The water temperature is 42.7. I've been out, it's been windy, a little bit of rain today, and I've been hitting bass in the head with a jig to get them to bite. But once that water temperature moves up into the mid 40s, into the low 50s, these bass are going to start chasing more versus trying to catch them on a jig. And when that happens, the magic happens on the lake, and we catch a lot of bass, and we catch a lot of big bass because they start chasing the baits that we like to throw as power fishermen. And we're going to talk about those baits today. I'm going to make 3 recommendations that I fish with that's kind of a staple in my arsenal come springtime. And then I'm going to talk about 3 new baits or new techniques that I'm going to start using this year to broaden my arsenal to catch bass in the spring. So let's get it kicked off with my first bait that I have tied on every spring. You haven't seen me catch a lot of fish on them, but I do have this tied on all the time, and I've been utilizing these baits since I was a young lad, and that's a shallow running crankbait or square bill running crankbait. And I've got them in 2 different colors. This is an alewife color. That's a staple in this lake I'm fishing today. White with the purplish back, really good color. And this is in a 2 to 4 foot runner. And then this chartreuse one, I have this color as well in this, but chartreuse is a good color in the spring, especially if you got dirty water. And this is in 6 to 8. Now it's not a square bill, but it's a shallow running crankbait. So a square bill or a shallow running crankbait, really good arsenal to have. Earlier in the spring, I'll fish this more than I'll fish the 2 to 4. Depending on where you're at in the United States, when the bass are still in that, moving up in that 8 to 10, I'll throw this 6 to 8 foot diver. And then when they get up 4 to 6, I'll throw this 2 foot diver. So you just kind of adjust throughout the year, throughout the spring, but really great bait to catch big bass. Early springtime, pre-spawn is a square bill or a shallow running crankbait, always tied on my, my rod. Now, the next bait I'm going to talk about, again, haven't put out a lot of video content with me catching, but I always have this tied on in the springtime. This has been one of my favorite baits since I was a kid, and that is a lipless crankbait. Now, lipless crankbaits are great springtime bass baits. I mean, you can cover a lot of water. Doesn't matter if it's shallow or deep. If you're throwing it shallow, you can reel it faster. If you want to pump it deeper, or slowly reel it in the mid depth. A really good search bait catches you a lot of fish in the springtime. When I say search, you cover a lot of water, and you can cover a lot of depth in the water column as well. So just a great bait in the spring, always tied on. Always tied on. This is again in the alewife color, white with the purple back. Again, staple in this lake. A lot of people like red in a lipless crankbait in the spring. Good color. I've not had as much luck with the red as a lot of folks have, but I like to match the hatch in the lake that I'm in. But can't go wrong with the good old lipless crankbait. And you can see this is a bigger profile. I like the bigger profile bait in the springtime with that lipless crankbait, for sure. When those big bass come up to eat, I want to give them something big to look at, to eat on. So now the second or the third bait that I'm going to talk to you about, you've seen me catch big bass after big bass on this channel in the springtime, and that's the good old spinnerbait. You can't go wrong with the spinnerbait. White and chartreuse is my favorite, with gold and silver or silver and gold. You can mix and match. I like gold on a cloudy day. I like silver on a sunny day. Either Colorado or Colorado willow leaf combos are my favorite. Indiana blades are great as well, but I will mix and match. Chartreuse and white, the staple. I have white tied on my rod right now. Golden Shiner is another great one with a gold blade. This is like my favorite cloudy day with that gold blade. This is what I like in stained water with that gold blade. Silver is like the primary thing in clear water, like this lake you can see down 7 to 8 foot. Primarily I use silver, but stained water, Colorado blades. Clear water, I like the willow blades. Silver is my primary, but on a cloudy day in clear water, I like the gold blades as well. Caught a lot of big bass on a spinnerbait. You just can't go wrong with the spinnerbait in the springtime. Over my lifetime, I probably have caught 300 or 400 bass over 6 pounds on a spinnerbait in the spring, and it's my staple that I go by. Now, two things I'll add before we jump into the new other baits that I'm going to recommend is what do I fish these on? What type of rods and reel setups? Now, for the lipless crankbait and the square bill or shallow running crankbait, I fish the same type of rod. This is a glass pedigree rod from MMA Fishing. I love MMA rods, great rods, but this has a very soft tip. And you want a softer backbone or softer tip rod with these treble hooks. Once you get those bass stuck, they stay stuck when you have that softer tip, that more parabolic action in the rod. 12 to 14 pound test line on a standard gear ratio 6 to 3 to 1 is perfect, but 12 to 14 pound fluoro is what I prefer. If you're down in the south in a lot of vegetation, I would say go with braided line if you're especially down in Florida in heavy vegetation or in a lot of lily pads. But 12 to 14 fluoro is what I use here in Virginia. On my spinnerbait rod, 15 to 17 pound fluorocarbon is typically what I use, but I have braid on here right now because I was fishing down in Florida earlier in the spring and I hadn't changed it out. I think I'll probably leave it on. 30 or 40 pound braid's fine. You're not worried about visibility when you're running a fast action bait like this. It's all about the vibration and the visual on the spinnerbait. But I have a medium heavy action rod, 7'4", the Superman, my favorite rod from MMA, the best spinnerbait rod I've ever had. On a 7 to 1 to 1 gear ratio. I like to be able to speed it up or slow it down. Really good with my spinnerbait rod. But yep, that's what I'd recommend. Medium heavy, again, kind of a softer mid-depth parabolic on my spinnerbait rod is how I like to set that up. 15 to 17 on fluoro or monofilament, and then 30 to 40 on braid if you're using braid. Now, the other baits that I want to talk to you about real quick is one is brand new, and I'm going to grab it right here. And this one is, because I didn't mention to you, usually I'll have and I will always have a jerk bait tied on. But this year 6 Cents came out with a new bait that I really think is a great looking bait. It's called the 6 Cents Pump. And this is a kind of a hybrid between a shallow running crankbait and a jerk bait. So what this does is it runs down to the 6 to 8 foot. This is the 8 foot depth when they come in a shallow and a deep. And then you can just twitch it and pump it at that 6 to 8 foot. And what I really like, and I messed around with it today, I just got them, is the action. It shimmies in the water after you pump it. It sits there and shimmies for a while and gives a little bit of action that the bass are just going to be jumping on. So something that I'm adding to the arsenal, the 6 Cents Pump comes like this. A little expensive, but I think it's worth it. We'll see. Hopefully I'll get some good footage catching some big bass on this. It's a bigger profile bait like I like in the spring, and they got great colors. I just think it's just going to be a really good opportunity to catch some big bass. We shall see. I will keep you informed, but that's one I'm adding to my arsenal, and that's a new bait for me that I just got. So we'll see how that works out. Now, another one that I just rarely ever fish, I've had them, but I just haven't fished it that much, and that's an A-rig. I got this one all set up. This is the Hog Farmer A-rig. This has got 5 grubs on it, or trailers on it. I just haven't fished it that much, so I'm going to try to fish it this spring. I know this is a controversial bait because it's got so many hooks on it and so much bait, it draws fish, but it's legal. And I just want to see how I can do. I think this spring I'm going to throw it especially early because this is not really a shallow setup. This is more for that 6 to 8 to 10 foot of water, even deeper. A lot of people like to use it in the winter, but I'm going to start using it this spring, early spring, to see how I do on this. So this is new for me this spring, is the A-rig, and we'll see. I may catch a giant on it, or I may cut it off and throw it back in the boat. So, but that's another one that I've got for this spring that I'm adding to my arsenal that you might want to think about if you don't already throw it. And then the last one is an underspin. Now I got this one tied up in a hair jig, and the reason I'm talking about the underspin, if you've been following me, this last fall I just crushed bass on this underspin. So I'm going to add it to the spring arsenal, especially early spring when the bass are running 6 to 8 to 10 feet before they get up there too shallow. It's just been too productive for me not to consider it in the springtime versus just fishing it in the fall. So adding the underspin to my springtime arsenal this year, and I'm fishing that on a medium heavy underdog spinning rod with 12-pound test line. I think it's a good opportunity to catch some fish, and the hair jig style I tied up myself, but I like this with just a regular Crush City, Rapala Crush City on here, or a Hog Farmer. I can't remember what they call that. I've got them right there in the boat, but with any type of grub on the back works really well. But something to consider is the underspin, and I'm adding it to my arsenal this year. Well, there you have it, folks. Real quickly, that's what my lineup is going to look like this spring. I recommend you try some of the first three that I mentioned. The shallow running crankbait, the lipless crankbait, and the spinnerbait. You can't go wrong. I mean, I've proven over the years that those are great baits in the springtime. The additional new ones, that's something I'm adding. If you want to try them, great on you. The pump, the A-rig, and then an underspin. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. We'll see. Hopefully I'll get some footage out of me catching some big bass on the additional ones, as well as my staples that I fish every spring. So, well, hey everyone, thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, tight lines and have fun fishing.